Which leads me to my first question to you. You wrote the documentary film on RFK Jr.'s book called The Real Anthony Fauci. How do you write a book adaptation to a film? And is there a difference between documentary script and an adaptation?
Yeah, it's different, but actually there are a lot more similarities to writing a documentary script and a book adaptation to documentary. Because either way, I have got to come up with a story. There's got to be a storyline. So there's actually a lot, it's similar in a way. When you're putting together a documentary script, whether it's a book adaptation or if you're just sort of creating something from scratch, you've got to have sort of like a beginning, a middle, and an end. And with The Real Anthony Fauci, it was interesting because that book, which is like a 500-page book, it's not written as a story. It's more encyclopedic in a way. And yet, when I was reading it, I felt like it was this sort of mystery thriller because it was all these pieces coming together over the past century, really, since the turn of the century, 1900, and
Wow.
talking about our health system and how it has come to be this sort of corrupt health system in our country. And so I thought, oh my gosh, this is like, it's so incredibly profound and it's so dense with information. This is something that people probably won't spend the time to read. So if it can be made into a movie, that would be ideal. And so anyway, the producer that I worked for asked me to put the book into chronological order. It's not written chronologically, but that was actually like a really great way to put it together because that gave it sort of this build-up. And so, yeah, when you're putting together a regular documentary script, it's kind of the same concept. You still have to come up with a story in some way. Even though it's like you're telling factual information in a documentary, it's still something that has to pull in an audience, and it needs to have has to have a feel. It has to have a bit of a cinematic feel to it. You have to think about the characters in that film, and you have to think about the feeling also, because every work of art has to touch the viewer emotionally in some way. So tapping into the heart of the story, like I was saying with The Real Anthony Fauci, it really is sort of like this encyclopedic story with a lot of like, twists and turns and sort of mystery to it. So how did that affect people on a personal level? How does it affect the individual, and how does it affect the communities